There are 5 conversations we believe that can transform a toxic relationship in just 20 minutes. Not fix everything overnight, okay? But spark a shift, a moment of honesty that begins the healing. And that's what today is all about. So welcome to the Campbell and Amanda podcast. My name is Campbell.
My name's Amanda.
Honey, let's talk about these 5 conversations. Hopefully we can do it in 20 minutes.
That's a challenge.
It might go over a little bit, but just hang in there with us. All right. But we wanted to talk about this because most toxic relationships are not filled really with like everyday fights, the screaming, the slamming of doors. No, they're filled with the silent resentment, right? The unspoken words and the unspoken and untreated wounds, really. You know? So we really wanted to dive into these 5 conversations. And you want to go straight into conversation number 1 that we should be having?
Conversation number 1. The here's what I miss about us conversation. And it says this. Can I tell you something I miss about us? Not to guilt you, but because I want to get back there.
And we had to have that conversation. Remember when we had our son and you said something to me where you said, I miss us, right? There was a period where we had to mourn the loss of our relationship as just 2 people who were in this together for a long time. We had been married 12 years before we had our son. And so as much as we were filled, and are still filled with a lot of joy because he just adds so much to our lives, there was a time where we just began to miss us.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to shed any more light on that? She's just like, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's so funny because, I mean, this can happen in any relationship because even yesterday he was basically saying, Mommy, you worked all day with Daddy in the garden, so I missed us. You know, so right? It's like, but you know, honestly, when you have a child or children, they're so dependent on you and there's not as much opportunity for you to be as spontaneous as you'd like to be. So you have to plan moments that you could Netflix and chill or relax together. Whereas before you could just say, let's do it tonight. Or, you know, let's put on a movie right away, immediately. Yeah.
Exactly. And here's why this conversation actually works, because it bypasses the blame and it goes straight to the longing that you want, right? And toxicity often grows in environments where positive memories are forgotten, where you forget what it was like just to be the 2 of you. You know?
Thankfully, I felt it within days, 2 days, 3 days. We were home, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm too tired. I can't just curl up and watch our ritual Sunday afternoon." Yeah.
Exactly.
I realized it quickly.
Yeah, and having this conversation rehumanizes your whole relationship with your loved one.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So that's conversation number 1. Here's what I miss about us. Conversation number 2.
The I take ownership for my part conversation. Okay, so you say this, I haven't been showing up how I want to either. I'm sorry for blank, fill in the blank. I want to change that. So it disarms defensiveness by owning your piece.
Exactly. And I think that a lot of conflict and a lot of toxicity in relationships develops because people are not having this conversation where they see their own part in the demise or in the conflict that is in the relationship. And so having this conversation of I am taking ownership really tells your partner that this is not just a me problem. This is an us problem. And my friend sees where he or she has been lacking.
And it's easy to blame the kids because the reality is that, you know, or, you know, if you're taking care of an elderly loved one or a sick loved one, it's easy to blame those situations where people are relying on you and dependent on you. But ultimately, you have to take ownership and not make excuses and find ways and make time for each other.
And here's the thing, humility is magnetic. You know, humility is magnetic. It often invites the same in return. If I humble myself, I think it makes it very easy for you to humble yourself and come to this conversation saying that I'm willing to fix this if you are willing to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you remove the defensiveness, then defensiveness is an invitation for, one-upping each other.
Exactly.
Having an argument and I do this, well, you didn't do that. And, so being humble and understanding that there's always room to grow, there's always room for change is, like you said, it's magnetic. It gives, it's grace. It gives grace as well.
And it's very hard for your partner to change or even come close to hearing your views if you do not humble yourself. So this conversation of I am taking ownership for my part opens the door to healing.
Yeah.
Right? And it opens the door to just a new start for your relationship. I cannot tell you how many times I see guys hold their ground because they don't want to apologize. They don't want to admit their own mistakes. They don't want to face their own selves and end up messing a long time and lifetime relationship with somebody because they were not just willing to humble themselves.
And we call that pride, and we know that pride comes before the fall.
Yes.
Pride does not exalt you. Pride eventually brings you down. Yeah.
Exactly. And the longer you hold off on having this conversation, the deeper your toxicity grows in a relationship. All right? Yeah. That is conversation number 2. I take ownership for my part. What is conversation number 3?
The what's one thing you need more of from me conversation. What's one thing you need more of from me? And you could say, if I could do one thing differently this week to make you feel more loved, what would it be? And that's very objective, concrete question.
Yes, because then this question also says, I'm here to serve.
Yeah.
It says, I am here to do whatever I can for you. What do you need more from me, right? The one thing. Boil it down to the one thing. If I can do something for you, the one thing, what would that be?
Massage every day.
No. Especially after gardening yesterday. Yeah. I could use a massage, right? But here's why it works. It works because you move from complaining to genuine curiosity, right? You move from complaining about the toxicity in your relationship to going like, you know what? Yes, I'm owning my part in this, but what is the one thing I can do that can make either your life better, bring more joy to you, help you see things from a different perspective, help you have more fun, right? It says to your partner that you are still interested in them.
And it takes away that component of expected telepathy. It's so often we fall.
You always used to say to me, I can't read your mind.
Right. But I hear women say this often. Oh, he didn't do this or he didn't do that, or I wanted this and he didn't give me that. Well, did you tell him he's not a mind reader? He doesn't know. And it goes both ways. And this is like a very open way to say, give me something specific so that I can help you. Yes.
And then the onus on having fun is on them now. If they don't have fun for the one, even when you did the one thing, but it is what it is. One thing is you humbled yourself. You presented yourself as somebody who wanted to serve in the relationship and somebody who was genuinely curious about their partner and still wanting to have this fun and deal with the toxicity that may be developing in your relationship.
Yeah, I mean, for us, early on after having our son, I was going from leaving work, picking up our son, putting him in the car seat, carting the car seat to the car, going to 3 different stores, in and out. My back was killing me. And eventually I said, I can't do this. Either we go together or you need to step up and help with the shopping because it's just so much. It's so exhausting. And you did. You did. Like most of the time you took it on your own, but then once in a while, because I did enjoy doing some shopping, we went together. So that was one thing that was very specific that was killing me. But I also had fun having those opportunities to shop together with you. Yeah.
And really, it flips the script, right? It removes your focus from fighting to wanting to connect.
Yeah, and problem solving.
Problem solving. Like, listen, I'm not going to be walking on eggshells here because I don't know what will offend you.
Right.
Or I will do something that might upset you. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is have you tell me the one thing that I can actually do for you. You know, that is an important conversation to have. And I would say that have more of those conversations.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. I think we're even going to make less than 20 minutes. This is very, very impressive. All right. But what is conversation number 4?
Number 4, what's the pain beneath the pattern conversation? What's the pain beneath the pattern? So we can say, I know we keep repeating this argument, but what's the real fear underneath it for you?
This is an uncomfortable conversation in most cases. Like, because usually people deal with the symptoms of a problem and not the root. Right? This is one of those questions that makes you pause and go like, okay, what is the root? What is it that is behind the way I'm feeling, the way I'm reacting and responding? What is it exactly? And it might take some time for you to work through your emotions to kind of step back and objectively look at what is causing the pain, what is causing the emotions that you're feeling. This conversation is an important one to have. And I would argue that most people not having this kind of conversation or a version of it just adds to the toxicity.
Oh my goodness, it amplifies it.
Yes.
Because you never name the problem. You never name the fear. You never name the pain. You know, for example, I know a couple who, you know, the man will threaten, well, if you do that, I'm going to divorce you. And so she lives in fear of doing what she wants to do because he says he's going to divorce her. But really his real pain is, I'm afraid of being by myself. I'm afraid of abandonment. If you go away, you know, I'm afraid I might have some medical challenge or some anxiety or stress that I can't handle, or you're going to have a medical challenge or an anxiety or stress and I can't help you.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, so those are really naming the pain, naming it and not dancing around it and using manipulation.
That's true. Because every toxic cycle is driven by unspoken pain. That is important to remember. Every toxic cycle you go through in a relationship is usually driven by some unspoken pain. This question goes to, what is the pain? What is it exactly you are dealing with? Sometimes you might be getting upset with your partner when in actuality you are upset with somebody in your life, in your past, right? And your partner is that place of safety where you feel like you can just be yourself, but you're not treating them fairly at that point.
Wow.
Because now they are the victim of your pain.
Now they're paying for your past.
They're paying for your past. They're paying for the things that you did not deal with. Yeah. So that just promotes that cycle, and it's driven by unspoken pain.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I'm saying that this particular conversation is so important to have. All of them that we have talked about are important to have. But I find that this one is the one most couples would rather avoid than actually take part in.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, if somebody says to you, you go, I'm divorcing you, you're like, okay, how do I handle this? All right, let's just forget this ever happened. Or
they pick up and disappear for days.
Exactly. Yeah, so you don't know. But you have to have the conversation. Yeah.
And in having the conversation, remember empathy, right? You want to ask and listen with empathy. Empathy is really trying to put yourself in that person's shoes, right? Compassion, or rather sympathy, is feeling sorry for that person, right? Empathy puts you in a position where you're like, what if this was me? How would I react? How would I respond? And the moment you do that, it begins to shift the conversation in a way that brings healing. So you want to ask with empathy.
And I mean, and the question gets really to the heart of the matter. What's the real fear? And maybe somebody's never thought through that. So, you know, you have to do some of that thinking before you even ask, like, maybe even, you know, if this is your spouse, so you should know them and know some of their history. And like, I feel like this X, Y, and Z have impacted you in this way. And so you often respond to me in this way. And what are we going to do about it? How can we overcome this?
Exactly. And one little technique that I love using in coaching, because I coach leaders and we coach couples, one trick I like using is the 5 whys, right? When somebody states something, well, I feel this way. Why? I feel this way because A, B, C, and D. Why? And every time you keep on asking the why, you don't ask it in an accusatory way, but with curiosity and with empathy, you help the person dig deeper into their pain. And eventually, the thing that is at the base of that pain emerges. And that is when breakthrough happens.
Yeah. And not everybody's ready to go there.
Yep.
I mean, hopefully eventually they will.
Yes.
But you have to read the signs as well.
You have to read the signs. And you also want to listen without defense.
And without judgment.
And without judgment, because they might be saying something that you actually do that makes them react and respond in that way. You cannot be defensive. And it's easier said than done, I know. But if you love the person that you're in this relationship with and you're 100% committed to them, you are going to listen without defense or judgment. You are going to take everything that they say as a mirror for your own life. Could they be right? I always say to people, with every criticism, there is at least one grain of truth. You know, somebody can say 99 things, 100 things. Out of that 100 things, 99 of them are wrong. But there'll be that one thing that they will say that will make you go, huh?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. And with just...
I'm trying to keep us to 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah, is that what's happening?
I'm just kidding.
All right. Conversation number 5.
The can we invite God into this conversation? Can we pray? Not just for change, but for strength and softness. I don't want us to harden in this season. Yeah.
And for those people, for us who are in church world, religious circles, who have, quote unquote, a relationship with God, this may sound like a very easy thing to do. But if you are dealing with a toxic you're in a toxic relationship, even sitting together and praying can be hard.
Yeah.
That can be hard. All right?
Yeah, some people could be like, oh no, he just didn't. He did not just bring in my daddy. What does God got to do with this?
What's God got to do with this, right? And, you know, because toxicity thrives in isolation, right? And part of bringing God into the picture is having that third party, so to speak, into the situation. And now you may not be a religious person. And if you're not, I would just say practice sitting in silence in the problem, right? You've talked about it. You have hashed it out. Just say, can we just sit here in silence and just reflect on what we've talked about? Right? And you can do that. There is reflection. And after some time, maybe 5-7 minutes, you get back, what came up for you? Right? You can have that conversation, what came up for you. Because again, when I coach leaders, most of them are not religious whatsoever, but sometimes I walk them through an exercise like this where I just say to them, sit in silence, you know, talking about an issue, maybe an issue they're having with a coworker or somebody that reports to them. Okay, we've just talked about this. Let's just sit in silence about this. What comes up for you? Right? And it's amazing the things that come out for people.
Yeah,
Anything else?
Even just sharing the space where you can give each other permission to rest in those thoughts and, you know, saying we're going to be in this together. That act is something that is very important.
Yes.
Whether you are going to pray about it actively or reflect on it together and sit in the silence, that is a commitment to doing life together. Exactly.
So thank you so much for joining us on these 5 conversations. Just to recap again, honey, you want to read them through?
Number 1, the here's what I miss about us conversation. Number 2, the I take ownership for my part conversation. Number 3, the what's one thing you need more of from me conversation. 4, the what's the pain beneath the pattern conversation. And 5, the can we invite God into this conversation.
And here's the final takeaway. Toxic doesn't always mean abusive. Sometimes it just means unhealed. And in 20 minutes of courage, you can shift something that has been silenced for months. You don't need a perfect partner to rebuild. You just need two willing hearts. That's all it takes. Two willing hearts. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you want to learn more about relationships in general, we actually did a podcast last week talking about sexual generosity. If you want to check that podcast out,
You know you do.
you know you do. Right? Yeah, you got to be sexually generous. If you want to check that out, just click the video below. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.